Hello, everybody. Welcome to Open Source Office Hours. This is Jay. If this is your first time joining us, thanks for coming by. I'm going to be spending some time today having a look at securing the supply chain for OpenStack. We've been dealing with this for a little bit, trying to get users pared down on our PyPI packages. And it's my turn to take action, so I figured I would save that for this afternoon, show you all a little bit of it. But first, I do want to talk just a little bit about how things went at scale. As many of you know, if you're here, I was at scale 20x last week. Hey, look, there's me right there. I was at scale 20x last week. Met a lot of great people. Talked about hardware for a bit. Talked about in our case, the death of hardware knowledge, which admittedly probably a little bit of a clickbait title because it was more about how it's evolving so that you sort of get to pick your abstraction layer, but the further you get away from the hardware, the more you're giving up to get the benefits that you get. So there's always a trade-off, and you got to be thinking about the trade-offs, or someone else is going to do it for you. So that's that was sort of what the talk was about. I got to meet up with some great people. There were obviously I gave my talk with my friend Julia, who's also chairwoman at Open Infra. There were some other Open Infra Foundation staff there. We got to have a few great talks, sort of vision questing a little bit on the future of OpenStack some. And I got to meet some really nice people. There were a few people I saw at my talk who were taking pictures of it, so hopefully you're coming by and you're saying hello, and appreciate it. So overall it was a success. The talk was good. Met lots of good people. One of the things that I keep finding out when I go to these is that OpenStack doesn't always have the best reputation still in some of these environments. It's kind of sad because we do a lot to try to make things work well for operators and such, but for some reason we don't always seem to get a lot of positive credit for it. In fact, the number of people who I talk to at events like this who don't even understand that if they're using Metal Cubed, that they're actually using OpenStack Ironic under the hood is pretty significant. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to maybe show these folks where the software comes from. So was very happy to be at scale. And I'll tell a little bit of a personal story before I get started. It was extra special for me to be at scale because back when I was in college, back in 2002, 2003, I was volunteering as part of the OpenOffice.org marketing project as one of my first contributions to open source. At that time, I was a computer enthusiast. I built my own computers, knew how to troubleshoot Windows machines, but didn't really have software development knowledge, so I was trying to help where I could, and that was marketing, which in reality was just sitting at booths at conferences. And some of the first conferences I was sent to as part of the OpenOffice.org marketing project were in Southern California. The first ever Desktop Linux Summit down there where the folks at Linspire brought out Linspire 5.0. I was there. I went to one of the early scales. I'm not sure exactly which one it was. When I went there, was working a booth for OpenOffice.org. It was pretty interesting to remember being at those events and thinking about all these giants in open source who were all around me talking and sharing knowledge. And I don't necessarily think of myself as a giant of open source, but that definitely flipped up on its head a little bit. A lot of the talks at scale were for people more senior or maybe operating software rather than building it. And combining that with the fact that I was a speaker there, hopefully sharing some of my knowledge with other folks, it was a pretty meaningful thing for me personally to be there. A pretty good career milestone, coming a little bit full circle. I don't necessarily know if Scale will be a conference I'll go at if I'm not presenting or exhibiting there, just because it didn't always fit exactly with when I wanted to go to a session. It wasn't necessarily spotted at me, it was for more like computer operators. In fact, maybe got a little bit of a rude awakening as how much I'm not a computer operator anymore these days. But I did really enjoy it. I was glad to be there. As always, the hallway track was better than anything else. My talk is up on YouTube already. If you go to Scale 20X and look at the video for Ballroom F on Saturday, you get to about 4.5, 4:45, somewhere like that, and you can see it. But I'm going to wait to post public links to it or anything until it gets chopped up into smaller videos, which is going to happen eventually. I haven't watched it myself yet because it's a little rough to watch yourself do that sort of thing. I need significant time between when I do it and when I watch it, so that I can look back and appreciate how far I've come rather than look back, 2 weeks ago and nitpick my own performance. Because, isn't it true that everyone's kind of their own biggest critic, right? That's I'm certainly not immune from that. So, all right. Well, that was a good little wrap up of Scale. Had lots of fun there. Like I said, if you're watching this and you're someone I met at Scale, I really am glad you're here. I'm really glad I got the opportunity to meet you, and I'd love to stay in touch and keep going. But for now, let's get going on actually getting work done. So let's get a little bit of context on what's going on. So what was discovered in January, and I'll open the discuss page so that y'all can see it a little bit, was that PyPI packages for OpenStack might have had additional maintainers attached. And we discovered this through one OpenStack repository that was for a while maintained by Horizon called xstatic-font-awesome. We saw a release pop up on PyPI that was not OpenStack. And that's obviously a little bit of an alarm bell. And dig into it, and what it finds out is essentially this is a project that, it was theoretically maintained by OpenStack, but the reality is most of the continuing maintenance of that was happening in a GitHub, and someone had the access they needed to flip that GitHub, to flip and kick a release up to PyPI, and so they did. So actually, hilariously enough, for our first case of a rogue release getting pushed, the solution wasn't to pull a rogue release. It was, we actually voted to give xstatic-font-awesome to the community that was going to actually maintain it. Give is a strong word there. A software is useless unless there's a community to maintain it. There's no reason for OpenStack to sit on the name if we are, if we're not maintaining it and someone else's is. So I really appreciated that move, but what we discovered is that there were a huge number of OpenStack packages that had maintainers that were not the OpenDev automation user, which is OpenStack CI for legacy reasons. And that poses an issue because while in the case of xstatic-font-awesome, that was not a malicious maintainer. That was someone with a white hat on trying to do things to maintain a package that needed a release. It's obviously a concern because anyone's account gets hacked. Any of them maybe don't follow best security practices. Maybe they get fired from a place where they worked on OpenStack at, and there's a little bit of saltiness there. There's a little bit of upsetness. There's lots of good reasons. Like, if you're watching this video and you don't understand the principle of least privilege, please look it up. But generally speaking, you never want anyone or anything to have access that it's not absolutely needing. And that's just generally positive security practice. So we audited, found lots of other ones there, and we kind of had a little bit of work that had to go. So the first thing that was important to do is we had to actually pass a policy in governance to say that that OpenStack CI has exclusive access to these. And essentially, if you're not familiar with OpenStack governance, there's sort of multiple layers to it. The Open Infrastructure Foundation holds some power, but most of it is delegated to the technical committee of OpenStack. I'm currently the vice chairperson of the Open Infrastructure Committee. Of the technical committee. I'm currently the vice chair of the OpenStack technical committee. And then the OpenStack Technical Committee delegates some of their power down to project team leads. And I'm a project team lead on Ironic. So with something like this, if we're wanting to set a new requirement for something to be an OpenStack package, that has to pass through a governance process. For the technical committee, we have 9 members of the technical committee, and we need at least 3 yes votes on any change for it to merge, which would be with no opposition. We need 3 votes. So what happened here is, so we went through, we worked. I actually worked on this doc myself a little bit here. We pushed a doc update to make sure that we had documentation on how to give this exclusive permission. This is a bug that's fixed pending merge, but we added that documentation. Then we reference that documentation in our new project requirements document in the governance repo, stating that it's now OpenStack policy that for a new project to be added, you have to be willing to give up your access on PyPI to our automated users. And I mean, like I said with Ecstatic Font Awesome, this isn't a power grab, this isn't consolidation or anything like that. This is just a matter of we don't want humans having access to things that only robots should be releasing. We want it to be clear. So that takes a while, right? You have to make sure you've got documentation in place to tell people what to do. I mean, well, let's go back. January, we discovered this thing's happening. We talk about it a little bit. An audit's done. We have PTLs look at that audit and make sure that there are no other cases like Ecstatic Font Awesome where it's not really an OpenStack packaging when we need to give it back. Then we had to go through, create documentation on how to do this setup, and then pass a governance change indicating that exclusive management of projects of OpenStack CI was a requirement. This process takes a while. It just takes a while to do stuff when you've got multiple people on board and things. So now it is March 16th. This merged 1 day ago, and the baton has been passed to me. So what I have to do now is contact project team leads and let them know that they need to reach out to the various people who have access to packages that they are responsible for and ensure that they're there. So you can see I've written an email here. This is all in public Etherpads, so like that's one of the fun things about how we do work in OpenStack. We've got this OpenStack PyPI maintainer, right here, let's look at this one. The OpenStack PyPI maintainers cleanup. You can see we have multiple different Etherpads linked in here. So it's nice. We sort of have this all documented, and all the machinations are happening in public as is sort of typical with OpenStack with our 4 opens. So now we have this. I have to send it out. It really is just going to be an email to the list, but I did want to show what's going on here. So I'm going to get that email compose window up. I'm just going to cut my, wrong one. I'm just going to cut my share off for a sec just as I log into my email. I would hate for accidentally sharing information that's private. Having your email up on screen is a little bit of a scary thing to do. So let's close that out. All right. There we go. So I've got it here. This is the OpenStack Discuss mailing list, and I'm going to compose an email to it. This is going to be PTLs. And I'm going to say action needed, contact extra maintainers for packages you're responsible for. I'm going to say PyPI maintainer cleanup. Action needed, contact extra maintainers. Okay. So now I'm going to take this email that I wrote. Hi PTLs. The TC recently voted to require humans to be removed from PyPI access for OpenStack managed projects. This helps ensure all releases are created via releases team tooling and makes it less likely for a user account compromise to impact OpenStack packages. Many projects have already updated the Etherpad with a list of packages that contain extra maintainers. We'd like to request that PTLs or their designate reach out to any extra maintainers listed for projects you're responsible for and request they remove their access in accordance with the policy. An example email has been provided at the Etherpad we just had up, which I'm going to go delete. Many projects already updated this to the list of packages containing that request that PTLs or their designate reach out to any extra maintainers listed for projects they're responsible for and request they remove their access in accordance with policy. An example email is there, which you can use to contact additional maintainers. Thank you for your help. For your cooperation as we work to improve our security posture and harden against supply chain attacks. Thank you, Jay Faulkner, TC Vice Chair. That's me. So this is the call to action. I'm going to go review that email real quick. I'm gonna make the instructions here more clear because I don't think they're clear enough. They're clear enough. That is readable on my screen, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is. We all have to pick a color in the Etherpad. I'm usually yellow background, and so I know that's not the most readable. I'm sorry for that. So check pad for package for projects under the program team for repositories / deliverables under the project you manage or you lead. Collect a list of all human maintainers currently with access to those to publish deliverables on PyPI. Step 2. Send an email to each of those human maintainers requesting they cooperate and give up their access while also granting OpenStack CI user owner access. Please be aware that since you may be contacting former OpenStack contributors, be sure to use their currently preferred name and pronouns, as well as a valid email address, preferably not one associated with a be sure to use their currently preferred name and pronouns. Additionally, validate the email address you have for that contributor is currently valid and not e.g. to avoid a situation where you might contact them via a dead email address from a previous employer. Step 3, please update with any information about human maintainers who have given up their access or given a response at all. If there is a sensitive issue please feel free to contact Jay Faulkner or any other TC member if you encounter any strange situations that might benefit from discretion. Okay, I'm going to double check this email. Dear name, thank you for your contributions to the OpenStack community. We need to ask you to please help us with one additional thing. It has recently come to our attention that your PyPI users has elevated permissions on the following OpenStack PyPI packages. In an effort to secure our package, an example email is provided below. Please be sure to fill in the relevant name and package list before sending. Okay. Dear name, thank you for your contributions to the OpenStack community. We need to ask you to please help us with one additional thing. It has recently come to our attention that your PyPI user has elevated permissions on the following OpenStack PyPI packages. In an effort to secure our packages from an accidental human publication or compromise, we're requesting you follow the instructions on website to grant owner access to our automation account, OpenStack CI, I'm going to say to the OpenDev Collaborate automation account. I'm just going to say to our automation account. I'm less likely to say the wrong thing if I say less. To our automation account, OpenStack CI, while removing your own access to that package. If there are any questions, concerns, or if you think one of the listed packages is not OpenStack managed, please contact #OpenStack TC on OFTC. OpenStack discuss at list.openstack.org or reply to this email. So I think this is pretty good. An example email and detailed steps to follow have been provided. So I think this is good. I'm a little bit worried this is going to upset people because there are definitely folks who seemed less keen on giving up access, but that's sort of why we're taking this approach to begin with. We really don't want to be in a situation where there's where we can generate beef from any of this. Like we're all working together. We're trying to make secure software. And secure software means you don't have too many hands in the cookie jar. So I just really hope that anyone who's reading this email, anyone who gets one of the emails from PTLs, which I'm one of them, I'll have to do that, but I'm going to do that off stream because that's going to involve a lot of personal email addresses and things that I don't want to expose here. But I really hope that folks are kind enough to cooperate with us and try to make this painless, because when you start talking about cutting off access, it can seem like a personal thing, but and at least for me, at least what's in here when I'm doing this is trying to make sure that we do things in the most secure way possible. In fact, I'll say this as a TC member: if there was ever an OpenStack project that the vast majority of their contributors wanted no longer be an OpenStack project, I would be hard pressed to find a vote against that as a TC member. So it's not about power. It's about making sure access is sane. So I've sent that out. That's good stuff. Now let's have a look at some reviews for Ironic today. I've not looked at Ironic reviews today, so it's a good time to take a look at it. Let's see. Let's get the priority dashboard open and let's have a look. There's not a lot here. That's pretty good. That's a good sign. Okay, merge conflict, not verified, not verified, not verified. This one was a rough one to backport. Okay, let's have a look at these and see what's going on. On RPC service stuff. Okay, I have a +1 on this. This needs plus from other people. I'm going to go ask for reviews on this because this seems like something that should be reviewed. All right. CI, explicitly disable port security from Julia. By default, Tempest disables port security, but DevStack turns it on by default. Because we're using specific modules, we don't get port security. Since we don't need this, we can just disable it. Sure, that sounds reasonable. I trust Julia to have a lot of knowledge about how this CI is set up, and Ricardo as well, so let's land it. Alright, good stuff. Coming in for a landing. Okay, enables boot mode switching with Anaconda for deploy driver. In fact, I'm tempted to just do that. Nisha's not here. I really think this is not current. Okay, recheck that so it can land. I would edit this one, but it still needs this one to land first. So, like, I don't know. The patch series are a little bit hard to touch in the middle. So maybe if Nisha doesn't update it in the next few days, I might tackle it just so that it gets in. But for now, I'm going to leave it. So, I mean, that's it for Ironic weak priority ones. Let's look and see if there's any that might be slipping through the cracks, though, as can happen sometimes. All right, inspected managed boot change to true in the future. Currently, we silently fall back to Ironic Inspector managing boot if the boot interface cannot do it. What Ironic Inspector does is set the boot device to PXE and issue a reboot request. This was done to keep backwards compatibility with how inspection worked before managed boot was introduced. With in-band inspection migrating to Ironic proper, the unmanaged mode becomes a more exotic use case that requires additional PXE infrastructure. Additionally, the popularity of Redfish is rapidly growing. We support pre-populating ports of Redfish. As such, the unmanaged mode should no longer be allowed by default. Oh. Yeah. So I'm putting a +1 on this, even though I have the capability of putting a +2 core review on it, because I had this question. But also because I don't have a lot of context on the inspector, and changing a default, I would prefer other people who know more about inspector use cases to look at it. But I am, I mean, I have no problem landing that later if no one else does. But I don't want to be counted as a +1 immediately. It does depend on a Bifrost change. Okay, and I think we just land a fix for this. I think we might have just landed a fix for this. Yeah, okay, we did. That's what I thought. Okay, now let's keep on going on here. Use main branch to run Metal 3 integration job. Okay, Metal 3 failed, non-voting. So there's not really a place for me to vote here. I did look at the CI, so I wanted to comment that I'm looking at it. I also like trying to put encouraging stuff in this. Like, working on this CI is going to be like sort of a lonely, crappy thing to work on for a while, and like I like people to know that they're seeing their work's appreciated and stuff like that. Because I mean, come on, I wrote the blog series about invisible work in OpenStack. I'm trying not to make anyone else feel invisible with what they're working on. So let's keep on going. Fix auth protocol and proof protocol for SNMP v3. Let's have a look at this. Okay, good stuff. Oh, I hate storyboard. I need to do that's on me. I need to get the Launchpad migration stuff going, but I just honestly am so lost onto what exactly to do to make that happen. I'm slightly concerned that there might be some out of spec SNMP v3 stuff relying on this. I'm actually going to go look and see when that was introduced, because I think it was introduced by a specific hardware vendor, and if so, I kind of would love to check with that hardware vendor to make sure this isn't going to break them. So Ironic drivers modules SNMP. Ironic drivers modules SNMP Pi. And we're going to look at blame, auth, proto. Okay, so that's 5 years old then. I feel much less bad about this landing. I'm on board. I'm no longer concerned. It's 5-year-old code we're fixing. Okay, so this is good stuff. We're going to change. It's going to go in. We'll backport it. This is going to be good stuff. So I'm actually going to, I'll wait until it lands, but I'm going to make a note here. Well, I'm not going to make a note, but I have it there. I'll have to remember when I see it land. Add default conductor group capability. When creating nodes, previously there was no way to send a default conductor group to create nodes with, forcing a two-step process to dedicate conductor without a conductor group to serve requests for it. This change, you can set specific conductor group settings by API, allowing increased delineation, reduce risk of misconfiguration or misstep. Okay, so I'm actually going to put a -1 on this one because I have a question. With this change, does it remain possible to create a conductor with no conductor group whatsoever, emulating existing behavior? E.g., could you create a conductor, then change the conductor group to empty string or none? If not, is that likely to cause any headaches? Especially for environments upgrading into this new functionality. All right, so I got a review on that. That's good stuff. Backports. Okay, so now we got that. What's the order of backporting? I gotta look at it on the. So just go 21.3. Stable bug fix, backported, landing as a single core. Okay, and because by policy we generally do not land things out of order, I guess I shouldn't workflow any of these, but I probably should still go. Oh, no, they already merged out of order, I guess. Whoopsie. It's okay, I'll put a +2 on all the rest of these. Z is landed, that's right. Yoga is landed. Okay, so just someone skipped entirely over the bug fix branches when landing this. That's not awesome, but it also doesn't matter that much. Generally speaking, Red Hat's the main consumer of these bug fix branches. So, I mean, they'll backport it if they need it, but I just, if we're going to have them, I'd rather let's do them in order, but I mean, it's not going to actually cause any harm. Unit tests failed. Why did the unit test fail? Let's figure it out. All right. Let's see. I think that is a flaky test. I'll go ahead and land it, because if it passes CI, I have no problem with it landing. What voting job failed this? Oh, there it is. Standalone redfish. Honestly, I'm going to go look and see if anything threw in the conductor log, because that's going to be like the biggest sign that something went wrong. Yeah, okay, let's just recheck this one as well. I think that's all it needs. All right, that's done. Got a lot of that in here. Cleaning up inspection data handlers. Okay. Yeah, this just looks like sort of Python written by like in a little less Pythonic of a way. The cleanups are definitely better. These test cleanups seem way better. Yeah, this is just make the code better stuff. Check v1 like name equals make control links. Sure, that's a pretty good drying up there. Inspection dot abort inspection. Okay, so there's a new import of inspection here. Good tests. Yes, they just moved some stuff around here. That makes sense. That's going to be better. Okay. Yeah, I'll go all the way down to these that have been pushed on March 13th. And I'll grab ESP config. When using UEFI boot with virtual media, it's generally preferable to match the ESP contents to the base OS. It's also an optional requirement for secure boot, as each distribution may have a Microsoft signed shim, but their shim will only recognize their grub, and their grub will only recognize their kernels. Oh boy. Okay. I sometimes hate the state of the world with stuff like this. It's sad that we need to do this. So, like, basically, when we don't say what version of CentOS this is or what version of Ubuntu this is, it's like, what does that mean? What does it work for? Yeah, just passing it through, of course. Question about the redfish docs. Did the old location ever work, or did it change across CentOS releases? It's unclear to me, and if it changed across releases, we should probably include both. Kapow. Remove auto commit again. Did the Metal 3 job pass last time? Yes, it did. That's good stuff. This is such a big deal. Like, the amount of work that needed to go into making it so that we could turn SQL Alchemy auto commit off was huge. And with this change and the Metal 3 CI that's in there now, Ironic really officially supports SQLite, which is extremely exciting for environments that might be trying to scale down Ironic a little bit to work in a smaller environment. So that actually looks like it for Ironic patches. It's about 10 minutes to 4. Quite frankly, I've been streaming to very little audience for this whole time. So hopefully if you're here and you're watching the VOD, thanks for coming by. I'll let you go a little bit early. But as always, I'd like to just say thank you. My employer, G Research Open Source Software. They give me a good chance to share some of the knowledge here with y'all and to work upstream on OpenStack with very little interference. So I appreciate that a lot. So yeah, that's it. Talk to y'all later.